If you're enjoying Playing to Win, please consider liking or subscribing. It would mean the absolute world to us, and it means we can keep having more powerful conversations exactly like this one. Welcome back to Playing to Win, and today's guest is everyone's favourite female in finance. She is a Forbes featured founder. She's regularly featured in the media everywhere from The Telegraph to This Morning. She's just been to Downing Street, and she has completely disrupted an industry and turned it pink. Rachel Harris, welcome to Playing to Win.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. It is so lovely to have you here. You are just an absolute font of knowledge and so inspiring. So I feel like this is just going to be such an epic conversation.
Our job is to condense it into a podcast that's listen
Exactly that. So we kick off every single episode with a little game. So I'm going to give you a scenario and then you can decide how you're going to play it to win it. So your business is on the up, but you've hit a ceiling. To scale, you're going to need a really strong team. Are you going to hire junior staff, keep your costs low, train them in-house, the risk being that you might not get there as quickly? Or are you going to bring in high-level talent, hefty salaries, the risk being that you're going to take a massive chunk out of your profit? Which one are you going to opt for?
From doing it one way, I'm going to go the other. And my answer is going to be high-level talent. So I'm a bootstrapped founder.
Yeah.
And we went the junior route, which was incredible. I've made so many internal promotions. A lot of our senior management team and the people who are with us on the dining room table. However, that was very much the slow is smooth is fast. And it was really hard.
Yeah.
And I think actually the biggest impact wasn't financially. It was on my mental well-being as a founder. It's just so hard. At the point that you are hiring, you need someone yesterday.
Yeah.
And when you're hiring juniors, it takes 3 to 4
full-time
months
job
to get them back up to where they could be if you hired someone worth a bit more money. And actually understanding your value as a founder would probably see you invest high level to start with, to actually mean that you are rapid from day one to generate more money in the long run.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think the reward for both of those scenarios is totally different.
Yeah.
You get the reward of knowing that you've trained up staff yourself, they live and breathe your business, but actually in terms of you as a founder, like you said, the impact that has on you, it's a full-time job to train one person, never mind everyone else. So I think that's a really good option, but also I think a lot of founders fall into just get someone in quickly to help me and I'll just train them up myself, and the long-term impact on our well-being is, as you said, I don't think that can really be underestimated. So
and the cost, and that's where it's
it.
So easy to look at numbers when you're thinking about cost. And as an accountant, spoiler alert, it's not just about the numbers. You have to have a cost to that as well. And so my job is teaching people. Every single person with a brilliant accountant should not just know their P&L and balance sheet. They should know, if you have a spare hour of time in your business, where do you need to spend it to generate the biggest return on investment? And that's the difference between a basic accountant and a brilliant one. And when we're thinking about that decision, short term, it's cheaper to hire junior.
Yeah.
Long term, it's actually cheaper to invest from day one and get a brilliant team who can hit the ground running, get them generating income, to remove you from the day-to-day running of your business, to not just create more income, but actually improve the valuation of your business, because the more you matter, the less your business is worth.
Oh, I love that. That's a great little soundbite. I think it's one of those things as well where we as business owners fall into that trap of working in the business and really miss that kind of how important it is to work on the business, because we are so, we get taken away in that day to day, and that mindset shift around money is so important because, like you said, we're trained, especially, working class backgrounds, that kind of start in life, you're very much trained to money, focus on the numbers, and it's really difficult to kind of break free of that. And I know you've spoken really openly about your own background and kind of the free school meals, and that's something that I think a lot of people can resonate with, and how we've come from these kind of lower socio-economic backgrounds and are now having to unlearn pretty much everything we've ever been taught.
For sure.
To kind of get ourselves into the game.
But also knowing that we make the best founders.
So much grit.
So the biggest conversation we ever had was, you're a client of ours.
Yep.
I fell in love with you, invited you around for dinner because I hate leaving the house. And actually that conversation of the concept of feeling comfortable spending other people's money.
Yes.
And actually the best people to be in the hands of angel investment or venture capital funding are people who feel very intentional about spending other people's money. There are certain people who love spending other people's money. They're getting cars on finance and they're doing all of the things that for me as a free school meal kid, I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, no, like you can't spend what you don't have. You need to spend it really intentionally. We make the best founders because we're not used to having or spending other people's money. And I'd say again, that's probably why I'm a bootstrap founder as well, is I was terrified of other people's money. I didn't want it.
Absolutely. And I think as well, as kind of that real working class background, we do have that fear of, oh my God, what if this all goes? And, you know, we're always kind of led towards stability. We're led towards academia. We're very much led to become workers as opposed to running our own businesses and being the ones generating product as opposed to consuming it. And I think that's such a good angle in terms of it's not something that people who, when we talk about the investment realm, really consider. And I think coming from that background does make you feel that intimidation potentially of I'm not supposed to be in this room. And whilst you are bootstrapped, you have been in some incredible rooms. And like, how have you overcome that mindset of coming from that working class to kind of being in a room with people who are maybe privately educated, have trust funds, have a lot of wealth, and feeling like you've got a place there?
I feel like as my profile has grown, as a creator, as a founder, as a female, as a charity shop kid, a free school meal kid, I have always felt a very big sense of responsibility that I have built the business, grown the business for myself, but very heavily like carry a sense of responsibility of I'm the person opening the doors, but how do we make sure they stay open for everybody else? And so, yeah, I guess I have always had quite a strong sense of if it's not me, we're just going to have to wait longer for it to be somebody else. And for every young female from the north, wasn't privately educated, came from a low socioeconomic background, for every one of me, there are 10 privately educated white men that are queuing up behind me, ready to take the space. And so who better? Do I do it with imposter syndrome? Absolutely. But if it's not me, I have such strong values as a person, like integrity and honesty are my two strongest core values. I don't know about you, but I would much rather I am in that room than somebody else that I don't know what their values are. And so very, very often, you know, shaking hands with Keir Starmer, like very much feel like, what? This is all escalated quite quickly. And I feel like I'm going to wake up at some point. I'd much rather it be me, someone who is hugely passionate, is a very honest person, has very strong integrity, versus somebody that, I don't know.
I think that is such a good way to dismantle that imposter syndrome, because that's something that I think a lot of, especially women, really struggle with. And it is that case of, oh my God, should I really be in this room? Is this, you know, who am I to think I can do this? But actually flip it on its head. This is why I should be in this room, because I've got the right values. I'm passionate. I've got that integrity. And actually, if it's not me, who, God knows who it's going to be. And I think Flow, the app, just a slight sidestep, Flow, the app, is run by men. And you're like, and they got $1 billion valuation. And you're like, oh, wow, okay, so if I don't do this, all these rich white men are just going to do it, and they're not going to do it in the right way. And I'm not saying their values aren't right, but in terms of it's women's health, and we've got men leading the biggest women's health app in the world. And that's such a good way to flip it on its head. I love that. And now, you did briefly mention Keir Starmer. We have to talk about your recent trip to Downing Street. Start to finish, what happened? You got the invite, then were you like gobsmacked?
Got the invite, immediately assumed it was spam. The day I was going was on Pancake Day and it was for breakfast, so I 100% thought it was a prank. I literally thought, like, I can't be going to Downing Street on Pancake Day. Text my friend and was like, do you think this is spam? Clicked on the email address and was like, no, it is a like number 10 email address, so I think it is legit. RSVP'd thinking I'll probably just get rejected at the gate. And it wasn't. There were no pancakes, sadly, but it was great. And so, I got to meet with Rachel Reeves. Keir Starmer popped in for a chat, and it was a real focus on a new media unit. with Downing Street. And so Downing Street understand that actually newspapers and press isn't the way to reach people anymore. Actually, it's people like me do that job.
Yep.
And a huge part of my role is almost doing the work that Downing Street and the British government haven't been doing for a long time, which is breaking down A, the topics that should be on the national curriculum that aren't, but B, the topics that we just get press releases or people standing in rooms that we can't even associate with, like Parliament, not understanding the words, not understanding how it's going to impact them tomorrow. And so I do a lot of that work anyway. They've realised that. And so, they brought together a group of creators and said, are you interested in helping us form a new media unit to help us reach those people in the right ways, using your platforms and your tone of voice, but just actually working closer with Downing Street to make sure that the information is factual and correct.
I absolutely love this because I think it is so needed. Yeah. I think it's a real can of worms when we talk about the media in this country. And actually, when we look at, without getting too political, when we look at previous elections and things like that, there's so much misinformation. And I think we've become quite lazy in our own critical thinking around making our own decisions.
And algorithms. Like you're only going to be fed the content that you've been fed before.
Your own echo chamber. 100%. And this is exactly it. And I think for me, as someone who had previously voted Labour, working class background, it's always kind of been in our blood, I guess, who previously had voted Labour, I didn't realise how much of an echo chamber I was actually in, because then when, Labour lost the previous election, I was like, wait, but everyone loves Labour. No, they didn't. Yeah. And it's because you're in that echo chamber. So what they're doing with you guys is so important because you've already got authority, you've already got credibility, and your own reputations are on the line. So you're almost like the new journalists. 100%. And I think that's exactly what social media has become now. Yeah. People go to social media for their news. They go to podcasts for their news. That's what really is setting the narrative. So how did that opportunity come to be? Did they just find you and had seen your content, seen you in Forbes and just thought, she's amazing, we've got to get her?
So my life is split into 3 sections. The first is our accounting firm. So we are about to hit a valuation of £2 million. I've just also become
as well.
Bootstrapped.
Love
baby
that.
Bootstrapped. Yeah. It's been a glamorous journey. Bootstrapped to a valuation of £2 million. I, this week, became a shareholder and investor in Strivex Audit. So we're about to launch our own audit function, which is the big girl pants. And so we're moving into the audit space, which is businesses worth over £10 million. We audit them as well as doing their accounts. I create content and...
amazing content.
Really big part of my job.
Content that we need to see when we talk about maths and accountancy.
100%. And I just had this really interesting experience as a child who didn't go to university because I was a young carer for my identical twin and loved maths at school, but was told by a careers advisor not to become an accountant because it was boring and I had too much personality to do that job. I just had this really strong sense of sometimes when there's a stereotype in an industry, not only is it the butt of a joke or a stereotype that you'd see played out in shows like The Big Bang Theory, that's how I identify my introverted self, is with Sheldon. When you can only see that and you're fed that, sometimes that stereotype also happens to you and you believe that that's all you can be, or that's the ceiling of what life has in store for you. And so just had this huge desire to actually show people how bloody interesting being an accountant is. I get to see under the bonnet of the most successful businesses, the most interesting raises. I do all of the valuations before, during and after going on shows like Dragon's Den. And I just have this incredible superpower when it comes to business because I get to learn those lessons. We don't niche, so I get to see lessons in every industry. And I get to apply them into my own business and the businesses that work with us. And so I started just almost telling the story of doing that. And creating content that's completely free, accessible, consumable, but spoken by someone who is qualified. The finance space on social media is bloody terrifying because you don't need a qualification to talk about it. And so that's where actually working with Downing Street, they found me through all of the press and PR work that I do. So I do lots of live TV, lots of radio, BBC Radio. They found me through Instagram. Obviously had to prove I was qualified. And then, got invited to Downing Street. And again, for every Rachel, there's 10 not qualified people who are doing it for the wrong reasons, doing it to make money fast. Obviously you feel imposter syndrome, but it should be me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's clearly something that is now being recognised by the government, which has definitely not been the case before when we talk about ethics and all that kind of stuff. So to see that due diligence is being done, and people like you are in those rooms who are, you really are campaigning for all of us. And I think a lot of stuff that's come out recently has been quite difficult for business owners, and a lot of the kind of new, what they called new policies are not that helpful for us at all. And I think you said it so right, that as a business owner you do feel personally attacked because your business is your life. And I saw that on TikTok the other day, Amy Smiley was talking about this, and in terms of she's trying to grow this amazing empire, and she's done so well to get to where she is, and then she's hit with her VAT bill, or then she's taxed on, you know, her products and herself, her own personal tax, and all of those kinds of complexities of it. And it is really disheartening to think, what's the incentive to keep growing and using my money for good and building this business to create that wealth, when it's just gonna get all taken away from me. And you kind of, it is disheartening to business owners. And was that something that they were kind of open to talking to you about?
Yes. So it's really interesting when you start to zoom out and look at politics. The best way to get voters to vote for you is make the personal employed situation very appealing and actually put a huge burden of tax responsibility on businesses. When you are a voter who's not self-employed and doesn't understand, you would listen to a budget or an election drive and think, yeah, Tesco's and Sainsbury's and banks, they should be paying more. But they don't think that business owners are you, and they don't think that business owners are me.
Yeah.
And I'm a young female operating in an industry where lots of accountants choose to outsource work to other countries where they have no or low minimum wage requirements, so that they undercut the market. I'm operating in that industry, and I choose to employ every single accountant in-house on payroll. We do not pay the apprenticeship minimum wage. We have an incredible benefits package. We pay over and above market rate for the role. We recruit every single team member and every single client based on values. And I'm driving that economic impact. I've created 20 jobs.
Yeah.
20 full-time jobs across Manchester and the South. Where's the reward for that? Like, other than like being able to sleep at night, which I would recommend, other than being able to sleep at night, knowing that I run a values-driven business and knowing that like every pound in profit I make, I know that clients like you don't feel dread when their invoice comes. They're like, yeah, like if I have to spend money in my finance function as a business owner, I want to spend it with somebody who's doing good with that money. That's our opportunity to drive our values up and down our supply chain, is money. But when you understand how politics works, the mass market are not self-employed.
No.
And so suddenly we see things like national insurance burdens being put on small business owners. There is lower incentives than ever to be innovative and to create innovation in the UK, whereas historically we were a country that was like at the forefront of development and innovation. And so I got the opportunity to make a Rachel from Accounts joke, which went down very, very well.
Did it?
But also to actually just chat about the landscape as I see it.
Yeah.
As somebody who is choosing to build a business here because I want to build a business here.
And on the front line of this, not in glass offices somewhere else. You are on the front line of this, working with British businesses day in, day out. You not only run your own, but you manage however many clients you guys now have. Like, and I think when we touch on values, just from my perspective, one of your values is leave the world a better place than we found it. You'll come StriveX's values, and that's also one of Ray's values. And for me, that's exactly it. I want to be able to make sure that I'm distributing the wealth that our company has into other businesses that are doing the same.
Yeah.
But like you then said, where's the reward then for all this economic support that we're all driving and giving each other, and kind of we then all get penalised for that. So I think it's such an important conversation, and what an opportunity to be. You had your photo taken in front of the black door as well.
It was very Legally Blonde. Yeah, it was a moment.
I love that.
Yeah.
But on that note, what was it that inspired you to really disrupt the accounting industry? Because everything you do is so completely different to any experience I have of the accounting industry that is very white and male, and very kind of conservative, and everything's done a certain way. And you have completely disrupted that with StriveX. And what was it, do you think it was growing up from that kind of different background that is traditional for accountancy and thinking, actually, we can do this a better way and we can do it a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be the one to do that.
I think the first thing to say when we're talking about, because I have become very well known for the brand behind the business.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to say I'm 5 years in now.
Yeah.
We have 750 clients. We have hundreds of 5-star Google reviews. That's the hard stuff. Personal branding and content is not easy, but in a business model is one of the easier areas. Anybody can go onto Instagram and make content about how great their business is.
Yeah.
The hard stuff is the bits that make it a sustainable business. And so the content and the personal brand is the shiny side. But when I tell you I applied that level of like discipline, standards and values to every area of the business, that's the hard bit. And so the front and the forward facing part of it, that is the disruption and the content, that same level of disruption exists, hopefully, it is for you as a client.
Yeah.
That it feels different. And so I think that is a really important part of personal branding to talk about is Instagram versus reality exists for everybody. And actually, I'd say for me, our client experience, our team experience, I uphold those values in every area of my life. And so that disruption isn't just on the front end, it is everywhere. And it's something that I'm so proud of. Like, I feel my goal in life is for the entire finance industry to have a mark of like before and after me. And just for people to be like, she left it better than she found it. Like the entire industry, the way that we're taught it at school, the way that we feel it as people.
You have done it completely differently. Like, as you know, my sister, who's an accountant, is so inspired by and I think the younger generation, her generation, who are coming through, are questioning things. And someone like her who's gone into accounting has that mindset of why like this and not like that, and why do we do this? And to see someone like you who's going, actually, it doesn't have to be like this. We're going to make the world a better place and an easier place to demystify all of this financial jargon and policy and, you know, limitations that are thrown at us, to actually understand them and make them work for us.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of this, as you said, is education. And a lot of it is we're not taught any of this in school, like at all. And I think your mission to completely change that is such an important and powerful one. And I think you already do. I think that mark of before Rachel and after Rachel, I think that's already there. Like, I really, really do. And I know we're in our own echo chambers, but I really feel what you're trying to do. And I think all those girls at school who love maths know that they can be something different to what they've previously been shown. Yeah. And you've been a massive part of that.
I love.
So is that really the driver for you of you see little Rachel in a lot of what you do?
Yeah, baby Rach. So in my office, I have 2 pictures. I have one of me graduating from my master's because I didn't go to university. And so getting a master's was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And me at 6 on a little tricycle. And baby Rach is the person I report to. Like, I'm self-employed. I don't have a boss. Like, baby Rach is my boss. And again, I grew up in the north. Again, that's very different to growing up down south.
Yeah.
I grew up in the north. Money was tight. I'm an identical twin. My twin sister's disabled. And so my mum's full-time job was supporting my sister. And that did a few things in my life. We were walking around a shop and my mum would add food up on a calculator as it went into the trolley to check we could afford it. Like, that was the situation that I grew up in.
Yeah.
That was the first element. But the second element is I have this sister who is my identical twin. And she was told that she wouldn't be able to do all of these things when we were kids. And I watched her do every single bloody one of them. And she just ticked them off as if it was a list of things for her to do. Like, she was told she'd never go to mainstream school. She told that she'd never live independently, never have a job. And she's done all of them. And so I very much grew up with a sense of like watching somebody just do and achieve, but also not by accident, like work so hard, harder than everybody else, to do the things that everybody else takes for granted. And so I grew up in a household where I was taught that people with money were bad.
Yeah.
Very bad. Like, that was a strong narrative in the house. People with money are bad. I've since learned that money is an amplifier of who we are. And if you're good, money is good. And if you're bad, money is bad. So I grew up in a house with quite bad money mindset, very anti-risk, very anti other people's money, very anti-debt. Mortgage was the only debt they ever had. So free school meals, charity shop kid, again, that stereotype becomes you, as well as being a young girl who just absolutely adored maths at school with a disabled sibling. Like, life felt chaotic at times. I had a very strong sense of caring responsibilities for her. And so when life feels chaotic, you hold on to the things that make sense. And for me, that was always maths at school. So yeah, just got really, I went to a mainstream school, but was in sort of like the gifted and talented groups, and just found like my people who, now when I look back, were all boys in these subjects at school, but like I just found my people. And so really doubled down on that, like did really like intense A-level subjects and did really well, and didn't go to university because I felt I couldn't leave my sister. And so yeah, did an apprenticeship. But again, like every single step of the way, I did the big chunk of my training at a top 75 accounting firm, which was incredible. I'm trained to like such a high technical standard, but just saw huge like inequality in non-transparent pay. Anyone that went to university, even if they had a degree in geography, was paid more than someone that didn't. And I'm there like, I've got 3 years more experience than you. I've been doing this since I was 17, and you're coming out at 21 and you're being paid more than me. I can go out to a client, I can speak to them, I can have a crack with them and be like, show me what you do, versus someone who can't open an accounting software and use it. And it, like, just none of it made sense. And the bits of the business that people like quote me in or like tag me in LinkedIn posts or social media posts are literally the bits of the business that make the most sense to me. Obviously, we should pay people fairly. So like day one, I just created a spreadsheet called the pay matrix, and it has every single qualification, the years of experience, how long they've been with us, and a benefits package. We have an insane benefits package that pays for everyone to go on an all-inclusive holiday every year. I've got a therapy session this afternoon that's paid by the company. I've got Prada sunglasses that are paid for the company. We have private medical, gym memberships, gym allowances, golf memberships. Like, I just want people to be well. We have flexi time that means that people will never miss a school run and never miss an important day in someone they love's lives. All of that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never paid a penny in recruitment fees.
Amazing.
We've got 20 team members in an industry that you can't hire without a recruiter that will take between 10 and 15% of someone's salary.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, my benefits package on top of people's salary doesn't cost that much. And so the stuff to me that makes the most sense is the hard stuff. That's the stuff that people don't see on socials. It's the stuff that, like, yeah, I can create good content, but there is an infrastructure and layers behind this business that mean stuff to everybody. And my job is actually translating it to you, the person who pays the fees that are higher. You could go somewhere else and get a worse but cheaper job, but you're choosing to invest it in a company that you're like, this is just good. And I am good. And so I want to spend my money here and I want to be a part of it. And like, I will look back, and I remember when like content creation and talent management was a thing. Someone in my office, we signed someone as a client that was from Love Island, and someone was talking about their agency, the talent management agency that they'd been signed at, and one of our team said, she's a, insert talent management name here, girl. And I was like, that's what I want people to say about us.
Yeah.
I don't want bloody brown carpet. I don't want, like, this is
falling down
like,
blinds.
None of this makes sense. I want people to be as they are, talking about their accounting firm on Love Island All Stars. And I want to be doing this in a way that people are like, that's it. There are few things in life that impact everybody, and money is one of them.
Absolutely. And I think as well, with, as we were kind of saying about how that money mindset, like, just to briefly touch on what you said earlier about how you grew up in that environment where money was bad. And I feel like as working class people, that is something that, like we said, we're trained to be workers. So for you, someone who is incredibly academic, to then not go to university is, as someone who's working class, you're kind of, and of our generation, it was very much like, if you're good at school and you can do academia, go to university, because that is going to be your road to stability, security, success. And actually, the most successful people I have met in my life, including you, didn't go to university.
Yeah.
They didn't go to university. And I think the maths kind of outside of the entrepreneurial bubble don't necessarily see that, because it's not what we've been conditioned to believe. And the fact that you took that stance, had you have gone to university, what would have played out after that wouldn't have led you to creating such a values-driven business, because you've been there in the industry from the get-go and you've seen everything, every inequality possible, whereas you would have had a completely different mindset if you'd come in on that higher wage. And I think as women, we tend to, and the stats speak for themselves, we are more likely to have ethical businesses. We are more likely to not only get a better return on investment, but we are very purpose-driven because we feel the inequality. We see the inequality. And something that I know a lot of people will say, but it is equal. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk in the media recently about how 60% of Britons think that equality's gone too far now. Gender equality's gone too far. And you think, why are we doing what we're doing then? Because we can feel it and we want to change it. And that's what this is all about. And you are such an amazing manifester. And I think and I think your positive action that you've taken in terms of, this is wrong, I'm going to change it, and I want to do something that's good for the world. You've then attracted all these businesses, all these people who also feel the same way and think, we want to be part of that, because we also believe in that. And to have Love Island contestants who you represent, that's really taken such a topic that is so off limits to a lot of people who think, oh God, I can't even talk about that. That feels so overwhelming. And I think people think accountancy is boring, and it's so not when you actually understand the numbers.
Imagine if you said, pick a person. I can look inside their bank account.
Exactly.
It's like looking in their underwear drawer. Like, you get to see like what, like even the businesses that fail, I get to do post-mortems on them and work out what went wrong. I get to see, of the most successful businesses, what are the personality traits that I see. I have their phone numbers. Like, just having their phone numbers, I get to call them up and be like, what's your morning routine? What are the habits that if you could start again, you'd do from day one? You can't simulate that environment. And to be attracting really great, talented team members who also have that and also have their own interests. Like, we have a male accountant, his name's Jack. He just recently lapped me when we were running a marathon together. It was the same lap 4 times and he lapped me. He's an incredible runner. I run for my brain. He runs for sport. And he loves running. And we've just signed a really big creator who is an ultramarathon runner. And to even like know their personal interests and be like, you are going to him, and that will be a better relationship and you'll be more interested. And like, I just did a bit of work for him for free and said, do not pay me. Can you give him a coaching session? He's training for a marathon. Like, all of these things just come together to create a place where, and it is because I didn't go to university. It is because I understand that for me not going to university, I felt grief for a really long time. I saw all of my friends who I lost touch with because they were at uni making new friends while I was working with 40-year-olds who, other than saying, what have you got for lunch? Like, we had nothing in common. And so I've built to create this workplace experience where we are simulating a cohorted experience that people want to be a part of in a similar way that people do at university, without attracting huge debt, whilst also changing their lives and giving them, as a young woman, the one thing that no one will ever be able to take away from you, which is a qualification.
Exactly. And I think as well, that is something that we see so many women, especially who reach that age of wanting to have a child and leave the workforce. And there's even been stats recently about like it's record highs of women just leaving the workplace because it's not fit for people who have children. And I know you touched on, you offer that flexi time. That is something so simple for businesses to implement. And really, I think there's this fear around like, oh God, they have to be here this hour to this hour, and they have to do this much work and and because I'm paying them. But actually, I think you have proven that when you take care of people and when you create something that is easy for them to want to be a part of, the productivity increases anyway. So is it really a big deal to let a mum go and pick their kid up from the school run?
And when you get it right, you've got them for life.
Exactly. Like, and they will give you everything. Because they believe in what you're doing, and you've helped them that hundreds of thousands of businesses aren't prepared to do. And then we've kind of we're almost taking steps backwards in terms of women in the workplace, because we have these huge motherhood penalties where you feel like I physically can't do this just because my boss won't let me go and pick up my child from school. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And you've kind of almost, you're on the front foot of this revolution of, okay, the workplace is not fit for women. How do we make it fit for women? And not just women, anyone who doesn't fit that traditional stereotypical 9 to 5, doesn't have anything outside of their lives, which we all know our life outside of work is the most important thing. And I think you've done a really fantastic job of integrating that to be able to create a workplace that people do want to go to. And hopefully that helps heal your own kind of grief around not going to university either, because that especially of our generation, I imagine that must have been a really difficult thing, especially being so academic.
And again, we're the generation where it's like the first in the family.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
There's a lot of, when you are the token academic, there's a lot of pressure. And so it was just, so hard. And, I was a social butterfly, had really great friends at school, and like watching them go off and do these things while I was working a 9 to 5, I was earning £3 an hour. I was going to night school, working in bars, pubs, clubs, a pharmacy at the weekends to just earn enough money to like get to work.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like they're at uni and I'm working. It was, I am grafting 4 jobs at the same time and taking exams and doing this stuff. And you're getting drunk on 3 for £5 Jaeger bombs on a Tuesday. Like, this is not fair.
Yeah.
But it was like the tortoise and the hare. And then bang, 3 years later, these people were graduating with degrees in accounting and finance and going into the jobs that I did 3 years before. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, I'm not in debt. I have done these things and it just feels good. But I think, again, I'm not a parent. And I think with the parent side of things, again, the stuff that I get cited in or tagged in online, it is just the stuff that makes the most sense. And obviously having like bring your kids to work day benefits everyone. I, as an employer, don't want anybody to like work extra hours. We do not do overtime. No overtime exists in our business. We're a scaling business. And actually, if you're doing overtime, I have a capacity problem. And you doing overtime is skewing the problem. And I can't make good decisions. We'd have 0 overtime. I don't want a workplace where people are working late and doing that stuff because A, I don't get the best of them. B, they resent it. And C, being an employer isn't about creating a work, like nobody will love my business as much as I do, and I don't want them to. They don't get paid enough to love it as much as I do. Like that's my job.
That is so refreshing to hear, because I think
but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It makes so much sense, and I think a lot of, especially like I've got a FTSE, as you know, got FTSE 100 background, and I think there is that real. We're talking massive businesses, and there is this thing of like, you need to be as passionate about this company. Well, no, it's not my company. I show up, I'm here 9 till 5. I do the very best work I can. But am I going to be able to show up and do the best work I can if I'm working overtime or I'm never seeing my kid because I have to be here all the time and there's no flexibility in remote working and things like that? And I think I hope that one good thing we can take from the pandemic is at least hybrid working. And in terms of, I think it's so important to be in the office. I think it's so important to have face-to-face time. But equally, can there not be a balance? Yeah. And I think that's where the world is hopefully at now and will continue to go in that direction. Yeah. But I think you've been so vulnerable with your own upbringing and the own struggles that you have in your life. And I think as women, we tend to do this a lot in terms of, I've had to go through so much to get to this point where I'm at now. And then there's almost this expectation that you become this role model and you can't put a foot wrong. And I think we've definitely spoken about this privately, but there is definitely that kind of expectation of, oh, well, if you're going to do this, then you have to be ticking every single box across, every single area of equality and equity. And that's a really difficult role to fill. And I know you've got your own experience with that with StriveX.
Yeah. So we have a really imbalanced workforce, which I'm a data girly. The data tells me does happen up to 20 employees, which is where we are now. So I think it's going to change backwards. But when it's a founder, especially through a founder's personal brand, always through a founder's personal brand. I don't know about you. I follow people who feel like me, have the same problems as me, sometimes even look like me if I want like eyebrow tips or hair tips.
100%.
I'm following people that feel like me.
Yeah.
Therefore, my workforce also feels like me.
Yeah.
And so we have, my husband is the only leader that is male. He's the only person in the senior leadership team who's male. And yeah, we have an 85% female workforce. Huge Gen Z as well. I'm not Gen Z. I'm
we can pretend.
I'm a big old millennial.
We can pretend.
But like lots of strong Gen Z female workforce, and it's something that I have struggled with but have also struggled to struggle with it, because I don't think a man ever would think, oh, what's the look? This doesn't look right. Like, this doesn't feel right. I don't want it to be this way. Like, diversity in business benefits everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
a huge fan of diversity of qualifications. I'm an accountant with a master's, and that's my superpower. I just want this to be a workforce where everybody feels seen and recognised. And so I struggle with that. I know that the data tells me that it's very normal up to 20, and through 20 through to 50, it will balance out. But I also hate that I struggle with it, because I think this is happening to me because for 150 years, women could only become accountants 100 years ago. And so for 150 years, like, no man cared about this ever. And why do I
Exactly.
care now? But, like, people will comment.
And
One
they
specific gender
recognise-
will comment
Yeah.
on my LinkedIn post saying this is an 85% female workforce. And I'm like, dude, apply for a job then. But I don't know what it is. I don't know. Women do follow women. I
Yeah.
mostly follow women online. And I do think as we get bigger, our brand, the client base, all of those things will change and become more representative of the wider demographic. But right now, actually, our workforce is also equal representative of our client base, which is also 85% female. Completely accidentally, I just like pink.
And I think that's something that we can really pick at, because I think as women, we are so conditioned to think, do the right thing, be polite, be quiet. And as soon as you start to do anything that kind of, goes against society's description of that or ideals of that, you do start to feel that uncomfortability of, oh God, I'm raising my head again, out of the parapet now. And, I think you're so right. Men don't look at their boards and think, oh, it's all white and male here. We should probably get some women up here. Like, it's just not in their mindset because they're not trained to think like that. Yeah. Whereas I think we're so trained to think, and I think that's why we get so angry about the inequalities and the inequities we face, because when we see the way that a certain type of man, shows up in the world, we know we would never do that to them. And we know that we would never want anyone to feel, I'm stereotypically talking about women as a blanket kind of thing, but especially from my perspective and my echo chamber, if you like, which is very similar to yours, I know that people wouldn't do that. And we very much believe in equity, not women being better than men. And I think that sounds like something that that internally, that is the struggle of, oh God, I don't want people to think that I'm prioritizing this, but actually I'm kind of balancing out something here, but because it's all in one place, you become that target for that kind of online misogyny that unfortunately is so rife at the moment.
And the reality is, the response to that is, I have created a place that women want to work.
Exactly.
Full stop.
And I think the fact that your workforce is 85% female, Gen Z, shows the direction of the world. If that is your client base and I know not your whole client base, but a chunk of your client base and pretty much your whole workforce, you're probably doing something right, because every generation should be more evolved, more educated than the one that came before them. And if you're attracting that, then to me, that's a sign that you're going in the way the world's going. And I think there is uncomfortability as women to push those boundaries, but you almost now have that weight on your shoulders of, oh God, I'm the face of finance for women, and everyone's going to come at me and expect me to do X, Y, and Z. And if I don't do X, Y, and Z, I'm on the firing line.
Yeah.
It's a
and as
really
women, we have to
balance.
balance success and likability, and that you must be likable to be successful. And you must, I think I told you when you came for dinner that we, again, the same level of data that exists in all parts of the business, we double down on in social media marketing. And I know that when I talk about deep tax topics online, the content performs better when I wear dresses like this. If you're listening, I'm wearing a beautiful Anne Louise boutique dress that's very flowery. The content performs better because, not because people enjoy it, but because people comment and question the maths. But if I talk about the same topic and I wear, like, quite stereotypically masculine, like
a suit,
suits with like
tailoring,
shoulder pads in, it doesn't perform the same. People don't challenge it in the same way. And so it just fascinates me. It fascinates me. And so I have literally had my team member report to me in a board meeting, if you are creating content that's deep and technical, wear something feminine. Because people comment more.
Because the type of comments that you get, are they more challenging? Or
it's the math ain't mathin'. If somebody looks like me but is doing the things, and it's great for me. I pin their comment to the top with a full breakdown of the tax breakdown. Like, that's so good for me.
And in terms of the algorithm, that's just engagement. So like keep trolling. Yeah. Like, it's so interesting, isn't it, that people just can't, because we're so tunnel vision and so in our own little, we have to put everything in a box. We have to label everything, and it has to be exactly as we've been told it is. So then when we see, a young woman who's really feminine,
it's like an optical illusion. They're like, she's
got no idea what she's talking about, because you don't look or present the stereotype that people are so used to seeing. And on one side of the internet, that's fucking brilliant. And then on the other side of the internet, how dare you, Rachel, challenge everything we've been taught. But then you've got all these young girls who think, well, I like makeup and I like pink and I want to be a big business owner, and I'm really capable, and I also really like maths, and I don't have to be one thing or the other. And I think as women, we are so kind of conditioned to think, stay in this lane, look this way, act this way, and don't try and cross into anything else, because if you do, we're going to shoot you down. And I think we see that play out in the media so much, which is why this media unit that you're working with the government on is so important. So we can see that diversity, and we can see that, I'm going to go and wear a pink dress, and I'm also going to go to Downing Street, and I'm also going to go and run a business, and I'm going to look like Elle Woods while I'm doing it. Like, what is so wrong with that? And I think, you definitely got the weight of that role on your shoulders, but are doing such a good job of it.
It's just for baby Rach. The only person, again, like, that's, I think it's really easy to get caught up in the stuff, and
it's heavy, isn't it?
None of that stuff will be on my headstone.
Exactly.
It'll be who I loved, who loved me, and like the impact that I had on the world. And like, again, I sleep very soundly at night knowing that I've created like such an impactful business, and again, it just, it all reconciles inside me, which is great.
Do you ever get that point where you think, oh God, this is big, and I'm not like, those days where we all deal with the imposter syndrome and we all struggle, at times. And do you ever have those moments where you think, this is just so heavy?
Daily. Yeah. I think I was having one of those days when you came over for dinner, actually. We had such a good chat, and for sure. And I think something that's really interesting, and I've spoken to my husband James about this, and he never feels the same, but I don't think he gets asked the same questions that I do.
Which is also interesting in itself.
I was at a conference this week, and my governing body actually came up to me and said, like, we just want to let you know that nobody that has a practicing licence in our governing body has ever been to Downing Street before. Like, this is really cool. And then someone came up next to him and went, so what's next? And like, everybody every day says, like, that thing you did was really good. What are you doing next? And you're like, please.
Just give me a break.
I want to just watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and like just chill out.
I'm on Salt Lake City at the moment, and but I'm obsessed.
I just want to
obsessed with these women.
Take my brain out, massage it, put it back in, and just chill out. And I think it feels big. It feels bigger than me every single day, and I always wanted it to. I never wanted it to be about me, and it's not. And like, as a follower, as a consumer, as a fan, as a client, it's like so many things about your experience will not be attached to me, and that's exactly what I wanted. And that's where there being substance behind the brand is really important. And that's the best marketing I will ever do, is that you will talk about me in rooms that I'm not in. And that's it.
And I think as women, that is something that we all need to do more of.
Yeah.
And it's this thing of, there's always this elephant in the room about how women treat each other. And I think if you can open a door for someone, hold it open and get as many women through that door as you possibly can, because that's how we talk a lot about the problems, and there's a lot of that, and regurgitating all the stats, and we all know it, the gaps that we're up against, but actually walking the walk is doing that. it is doing exactly what you said. It's making other women and people talk about you in rooms that you are not in. And that is the most purest, honest form of marketing that you can ever get. Yeah. And I think you're definitely leading the charge on that. And I imagine that most of your clients come through word of mouth. Yeah. Yeah, you don't really need to.
And with a following, like, we're at 150,000 across platform. Huge amounts of inquiries come from social media every single day. I know my job is working well when, firstly, every single person has heard about us in 3 different ways.
Yeah.
It will be someone saying, Sophie spoke about you, someone spoke about you on a podcast, a client was raving about you, I heard about you on Love Island All Stars. Then I started following you on Instagram, and then someone else told me about you. And then I mentioned I met someone at an event yesterday, and she said, I've seen you work with this brand and this brand. And I'm like, yes, they're all our clients, and this community that you're a part of, you know, like, come for dinner, like, do supper clubs, do in-person events. Yeah. We do MBA in a day, finance edition. Like, you get to be a part of that cohorted experience. Again, I flip back to that moment where I heard someone say, she's a girl. I want people to say, like, she's a Strivex client. I want people to have in their Instagram bio, like, represented by Strivex. And, like, that's...
Oh my God, should we start? Let's start.
That's what I want people to feel.
Let's start a social media ripple.
Represented by
Strivex. Yeah. Because there's so many people I come across in this space that we're kind of all operating in, and I'm kind of just entering. Everyone I speak to is like, oh, you're with Strivex. You're with Strive. I'm like, yeah, I am. Yeah. Because it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. And I have never heard anyone be like, my accountant. Normally it's my accountant. And it's just, it was just so desperate.
True. It's so true. And like, if I'm speaking to different people or having different meetings, they're like, oh God, I've got an accountant meeting tomorrow. It's like such a chore. Whereas that's like, definitely not what it feels like.
Chorizo, we had some cheesecake.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. Yeah. Like, it's just, and I think it's proof that when women are given access and the tools and the support, even though you might have to fight really, really, really hard for it.
Yeah.
Look what you've done.
Yeah.
And there's such a reason to support female businesses. Yeah. Such a reason. Yeah. And back to your investment point, we also make better returns, and we, especially being working class, we're the best people to look after your money, because let me tell you, a penny of that isn't going to waste.
100%. And I feel like my job is... I remember the first time I did Reformer Pilates, because it changed my life. It was the first time I ever did exercise, and I did a lot of running at school. I ran very competitively, but it was almost like punishment. It was sport. It was competitive. It was all of these things. And I was good at sport, but school taught me that exercise was bad, and that you could eat if you exercised, or you could do this if you exercised, and you had to do this, and it was timed, or it was a beep test, or it was weird girls that weren't nice to you and picked you for their team. I did Reformer Pilates and was like, I've just moved my body. And it was joyful. I had fun. I kind of felt like I wanted to cry the whole time. Like, I felt like I was in tune with my mind and my body. And it was the first time I was like, school don't have it right. I'm not productive between the hours of 9 and 3. Exercise isn't painful. You're not one thing or the other. I was always taught that if you're good at maths, you're not creative. Don't do art, do maths. And now I've built this job that I am the most creative person in the business. We've built a multi-7-figure brand from a girl who loves maths being creative. And I did Reformer Pilates and was like, it's all wrong. And my job is showing people that we can be the Reformer Pilates of maths, and being like, I know you've been told by a teacher that you were either bad or you were good, but you became self-employed to make impact, and the measure of impact when you are self-employed is money. My job helps you to make more money. And my job is that within 6 months of working with us, you get 3 hours a month. You do a financial wellbeing routine. You are in the gym and I am your PT. And by the end of that, if you have a spare 60 minutes, you know exactly where to spend it to make more impact and more money.
I think you do such a good job of translating that, and you've almost like invented your own language to talk about this. And that's so important, because I think a lot of us get shut out of these rooms because a lot of jargon's used, a lot of terms are used, and it's deliberately overcomplicated to push certain people out of spaces. And I think what you've done is essentially gone, it's not that complicated. Come over here, let us show you how to do this. And using analogies like that is exactly what people need to hear.
Yeah.
Because for me, traditionally, very bad at maths, very, very, very bad at maths. Now that I run my own business, I need to get good at maths. And actually I've realised, I'm not that bad.
Are we allowed to talk about you raising?
Yeah, of course.
I feel like when you came over for dinner, I watched your shoulders just drop.
Yeah.
And almost, again, it clicks with you, of you being like, oh, so there's not a secret. There's not like a formula that I need to learn to like learn how to do.
Yeah.
It's just putting things in the right place and leaning into it. And it's a muscle that you build. You don't have it or not have it. It's like going to the gym. You don't go once and it's done. I'm your PT. You're in the gym. You'll do it and you'll get better and you'll build routine and you'll keep this routine and it'll become a muscle that you build and you have. And I will give you that and it'll stay with you forever. And I feel like, again, just watching people's shoulders drop when they're like, oh. And I do feel safe and I can ask more questions than I answer, which is one of our core values. Like, I just feel safe to ask stupid questions, or I love stupid questions. They're the easiest ones to answer. Like, I just feel safe and protected and calm and loved. And I know that I'm going to be communicated in a way that I choose to be. I know that I'm around people that have been recruited on the same values that I signed up for. What more could you ask for?
That's exactly it. And I think you're so right. When I came round and was speaking to you about raising, my shoulders, I left our dinner feeling so much more confident in what I was doing. And we see on Dragon's Den and we think, okay, so my number's this, and they got to this valuation, but then Dragons tore that valuation to pieces. And what does that actually mean? And oh my God, where do I even start?
Yeah.
And I think what you guys do is so helpful for demystifying that.
Yeah.
And when you see clients come to you and they're sort of talking about, look, we need to raise some investment, what are those steps that get your clients out of, okay, I run my business, to I'm now going to raise?
Yeah.
And what is it that they need to do to get there?
Step one, work out if you actually need a raise. In Instagram land, lots of people think that the only way to have a measure or a value of your business is to exchange part of it for money and sell it.
Yeah.
I am a bootstrapped Barbie and I know every single day how much my business is worth because I want to. Makes me sleep better at night, makes the stress worth it. I can't sell a job. I can't pass a job down to my children. I can sell a business. I can pass a business down to my children. So I would definitely recommend, firstly, work out if you need to raise to get where you need to go. For lots of people, they do. For lots, they don't. So step one, have a conversation, do a bit of Googling, ask ChatGPT. Do I need to do a raise? Like, what's the end goal? And to do that, you need clarity on where you're going. If you've worked out that where you're going requires an influx or an injection of cash from someone else, work out if you actually need to exchange equity to do that. Could you take out a loan? If you've got a business plan, you've got a model, you could go to a bank. Do you want equity? Angel investment is different to VC. So VCs bet on 10 horses, and if one of them does well, they're fine. It's large injections of private equity cash, but it feels like private equity. It's not soft, it's not supportive, there's no coaching, there's no mentoring. Yeah. They're betting on one horse to win, and if you're not that horse, it might not be a fun experience for you.
Yeah.
Then we move into Angel Land. And Angel Land is probably the most similar to what you see on Dragon's Den. It is individuals with piles of cash. And they're wanting to give it away. They want to deploy their assets. And I think that's the number one thing I've learned from helping people raise is the people that are investing are deploying assets. They have assets to deploy. And when you come from families like we do, it's personal. Cash is personal. Money is personal.
Yeah, 100%.
Money is all of these things. It's not.
It's very emotive.
Yeah.
Very emotive.
But it's not.
No.
Raising, for most people, is actually an easier experience than they think it's going to be.
Yeah.
If they're in the right circles and they're speaking to the right people. So first, myth bust is like, you're not pulling this money out of people's pockets. They have capital to deploy.
It's so interesting you said that, because I had a conversation earlier this week with someone who was saying that they're an angel investor, and they were sort of saying, like, I am actively trying to move my money out and away, because, you know, and then they obviously get their tax breaks and all those things like that. It's a good thing for them to be doing. And I think exactly like you said, that mindset of, oh God, I've got to find someone who's going to want to give me money.
Or that you're in meetings being like, please, or like,
yes,
please,
that scarcity mindset of like, I only need this much. I only need this much. And they're like, yes, take it. Like, go and distribute this money and make it work and bring it back to me, you know, in quadruple returns or whatever the model is.
So there's a huge market. There are angels that need to deploy money. In the UK, there's great tax wrappers. So if you imagine a sweet in a wrapper, there are tax wrappers around those investments. So the way it exists at the moment with SEIS and EIS, which are buzzwords that you'll hear. If you Google angel investment, that will come up in the first sentence.
Yep.
They are tax wrappers that go around people's pounds. And so if you're an angel investor and you're investing in a tax wrappered scheme, of every pound you invest, only 17p of it is at risk. Everything else you would get back in tax relief if the business failed. And then a chunk of that they actually get up front anyway, regardless of if they make a gain or not. They get tax back.
It's a smart move for them.
So by spending their money, they're actually buying back personal allowance.
Right, okay.
So there is more cash on the table than we think.
Yeah.
Our job is to get you to the right people.
Yeah.
And my advice is to be more Marmite. I am sure every day people land on my social media and they're like, ew. Like, I don't like your values. I plan on being a dick. I don't want to be here. And they go, which is great. They don't come to me. They don't pass go. They don't cut £200. They don't waste my time. They just go, be more Marmite. Turn up the volume on the bits of the business that mean that your clients are like, yes. Because then the angels will be like, yes. The biggest bit of feedback I ever give when I'm reviewing pitch decks and doing coaching for shows like Dragon's Den is to put more of themselves into. Again, people take the pink dress off, they put their blazer on and they're like, good morning, everybody. And you're like, no, drop your shoulders, talk to me as you would, because this board and these advisors that you're bringing in, they're the people that are going to help you grow the business. And they need to know who you are and you need to know who they are. Don't pretend, because pretending is hard. Being yourself and showing up like that every day, really bloody easy. So just the biggest bit of feedback I ever give is be more yourself. Be the you that you are in these meetings. Be like that. So building your pitch deck around that. And then the 101 of evaluation is your business is worth whatever you can sell it for.
Yeah.
Full stop. Again, shows like Dragon's Den, the internet, maths teachers will make you think it's impossible and you can't get your head around it. And we build valuations to help you feel confident. But the too long didn't read is your business is worth whatever you can sell it for. In the same way that if I wanted to know how much my house is worth, I can do some market research. I can go on Zoopla and see how much my neighbour sold his for 2 years ago. I can go on Zoopla and see how much one road down sold for 3 years ago. I know that there's a good school. I know the local area. I can do some research. You can do exactly the same for your business. You can work out what road am I on? What street am I on? What are the schools? What's the area? You can do that research. However, a lot of it is about the presentation and the actual quality of your house and the quality of your business. So the bricks and mortar, the Zoopla, the data will tell you one thing, but actually your ability to sell and find the right people is also really important. So if it's raining, if you're near a school and they're coming to look at your house at 3 p.m. and they can't park and they think it's awful, if there's like a weird smell, something's in the fridge, you can't find it, it smells, the house doesn't smell good, again, it's raining, your neighbours are arguing with their windows open, they're like, oh my God, what is this?
Yes, absolutely.
That's going to be quite different to, it's the summer holidays, there are no cars, the sun is shining, the tank is clean, the cleaner's just been, you've got something in the slow cooker, bread in the oven, and you tell them that they are the world's biggest One Direction fan and Harry Styles actually lives next door. Those houses are going to be worth very different price points. And so data can do one thing, which is tell you the position, the market, where do you sit. That's the blueprint of where you are. But my job is to help you work out what's your Harry Styles and how do you find the world's biggest One Direction fan. Those are the two bits that are within your control. And that's the stuff that I help you to do.
I think that's so interesting. And I think from not just my experience, but from so many other women I spoke to who have been through this process, are going through this process, considering going through this process, I think a lot of us are very much like, I don't want to say something, like I have to have so much proof and so much evidence, and like, whereas men are so much more, no, this is how it is, this is my potential, this is what it's going to be.
I'm bad at that bit, so I want an angel to take that seat.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas women are kind of go into things thinking, I need to be the best at X, Y, and Z instead of just X, and then I can find angels to fill Y and Z.
Yeah.
It's that real mindset shift of showing up as a woman in this space with confidence. And I think that's what a lot of the issues that we deal with, especially in the investment space, especially running a business, it all boils down to that confidence. And we spoke about this on previous episodes in terms of that real hubris that men have, that we're just a little bit shy about doing ourselves as women. But you've told me before as well, like I think it was on your MBA program where there was an opportunity, was it, to go and do like a Dragon's Den simulation, and you were the only woman in that room and you weren't even supposed to be there or something like that, and you were like, no, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. And you know, that,
and we won.
Of course
it did.
Of course, you then won. And I think that is something that a lot of women struggle with. So from your experience, what is the best advice to show up with confidence in an investor pitch?
Yeah, I'd say knowing all of these things, so like knowing that, again, you're not going to your parents and asking for money. You're not asking someone to remortgage their house. Like, the cash that's on the table is available cash. They want to spend it, and you're good. That's the first thing. Like, that is crippling, especially if you come from a background like I did, which is like, money is bad, money is hard, it'll be a struggle, you're having to prize it out of people's hands, and it feels a bit dirty. It's not. It is not. It's a different landscape, is the first. The second is, again, we're full circle from the start of the episode, but I'd rather it be me.
Yeah.
I would rather have that money in my hands than the person behind me, the next person, or somebody else. I'm a good person. I know my values, and I can deploy this with like passion and compassion at the same time. And I think women do a really good job of, like, we all speak about imposter syndrome. But imposter syndrome isn't always feeling like an imposter. It's actually very often not feeling like you don't belong, but feeling like someone's perception of you is maybe just 2 points higher than you are.
Yeah.
So like, if I ever meet people that follow me online, that's when I feel the most imposter syndrome. It's when, it's not that I think I don't belong or I think that they shouldn't follow me. I get messages every day from people being like, I became an accountant because of you.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't feel I don't belong. It's that I think they think I'm a 10 out of 10. And I know that really I'm probably a 7.5. Like, that's imposter syndrome. And I think, again, it comes back to, I would much rather that money be going to a good home than anyone else.
And I think the other thing that women just really, that we don't really talk about, is the amount that we're juggling. It's the amount that we're juggling, and through our self-care, through well-being, through our own health, it's something that we just don't really talk about, and we just completely get on with. And you know, depending on where we are in our cycles and what time of the month it is. And again, we've had conversations about this where you really do sit there sometimes and you're like, I can't do this. I feel really insecure about something. And then a week later, you're thinking, I've got this. And we don't really talk about that we're juggling that all the time. Like, we have 480 hormonal fluctuations a month. Men have around 30. And for us in this kind of space, trying to build businesses, that's that kind of real underbelly of what we're actually dealing with every single day. And that makes it really hard to show up consistently, whether that is to get investment, whether that is to lead, whether that is to hire someone. And you then have to juggle all of that on top of, and I think that contributes to a lot of the imposter syndrome as well, in terms of, oh God, I don't feel like I made the right decision yesterday, or I don't feel like I was, you know, as articulate as I could have been. And then we internalize it, make it a flaw about us, and think, oh, okay, I can't public speak anymore. And, you know, we then spend all of this time trying to overcome that to then show up again. And, you know, it's just something that we just don't ever really talk about. But I know that you can definitely relate to a lot of that and kind of the things that we've spoken about. And what do you do to make sure that, from a self-care and well-being perspective, and how do you feel like that makes you a better leader?
I think lots of us pay a lot of attention to the business. And I, especially at the beginning of the business, put the business before everything else. My life got really good and felt very good when I correctly ordered them, which is obviously life, husband, then work. But also, we all pay so much attention to the business. And again, when you're going through a raise, one of the things that I do is say to people, like, here's your blind spot. Here's the seats that are missing. So if you imagine a big boardroom, let's say there's 6 seats in a small business: finance, marketing, operations. I'll be able to tell you which seats are missing. You can specifically target those people. And my life got really good when I treated my personal life the same and built a board of advisors. One who's a mum who runs a business, so that when I become a mum one day, I feel like I have an ally of someone who I can emulate, because you can't be what you can't see. And I grew up in a house where my mum worked or was a parent, and she had to choose. So one who's a great parent. One is the only other woman who owns an accounting firm bigger than me in the UK, and she's my best friend, is her. And I just have this incredible board of people in my personal life that serve me. that I can just ring and say, most problems can be solved in 12 minutes. And I can just say, like,
Oh, I
have
like
you got 12 minutes? Can I talk to you? And treating your personal life with the same importance as the business, but also even just knowing that you have this board of people around you who, you know, there's certain people, if they text me, I'm like, my face lights up, and, you know, those are my people. And so knowing that you've got those board and they all serve different needs. I think when I knew that I wanted to be a mum, I knew that I wanted to be a wife, and I wanted a business, I thought, who can I look to do this? And the reality is I can't see anyone doing it in the way that I want to. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean I can't do it. I just need to cherry pick the attributes from my board of advisors to mean that I am emulating all of the good bits that I've chosen from them.
I love that. And I think it is, you are the company you keep, right?
Yeah.
And you know that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think that's such a good way to look at it, and almost like forward plan in a very Rachel way,
yeah.
to kind of see, okay, I know that I want to achieve this. And I think we are sold this dream as women of, you can have it all. You can be a mum. You can be a partner. You can be a wife. You can run an amazing business and make 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. But the reality is so far from that. And we don't see a lot of transparency around that, because it's not helpful to the masses. But it is really difficult when you are juggling all these different things, and then being able to show up as a leader for your business. Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful thing about when women support each other. Like, your best friend owns an accounting firm. And again, back to the elephant in the room, there's room for all of us. Like, let's lift each other up, even if we're doing the same thing.
And my favourite question to ask women who are more successful than me, based on my own opinion, at networking events is, what do you delegate in your personal life?
I love that.
No one talks about it.
No one talks about
it.
it.
And I'll look and be like, how? Like, I, right now, cannot imagine doing this job and being a parent.
Yeah.
I right now, still can't text anyone back and doing my food shop. I hate it. So, like, how does anyone keep humans alive and actually, like, feel like they're kind of doing it well, and, like, that they're not going to need therapy forever and do the business? And so, yeah, any person that I meet, I'll say, like, what do you delegate in your personal life?
Yeah, I love that.
And as you grow and the business grows, the answer is bloody everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You honestly have to. And I think there's almost like that part of the sisterhood that is really toxic when we talk about parenting, because it is that thing of, well, you should be at home with your kids. Oh, but you need to go but you should also be a big businesswoman. And the majority of people who are throwing that criticism are women. I see it all the time. Oh, well, she's got a nanny. Oh, well, she's got this. Or, oh, well, she where are the kids? And you're like, guys, come on, let's just give each other a break. Yeah. Like, we've got enough that we're up against. And actually, let's just lift the curtains a little bit and be like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you manage to get your kids to school on time and make sure that they don't feel like they're missing out on time with you? And how do you do that balance? Because it's definitely something that I think we kind of gatekeep from each other in an unintentional way, because we're so scared what the reaction is going to be. You're trying to
protect yourself, for sure.
And you're so scared that another woman is going to say, well, that means you're not a very good mum.
Yeah.
And that's like the one thing that will get a woman more than anything else, is to come at her parenting. Yeah. So I think there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done in that space to really, and what you're doing with your employees is a massive part of that. Bring your kids to work for the day. Leave to go.
Favourite day of the year.
Leave to go and do the school run. Yeah. Like, it's work is part of our lives, and I think the more we integrate that, the better. But if you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Or it's like being in therapy. Yeah, I do a lot of it. Lots of it in child work in therapy. It's actually hard because I feel very intentional. Like, when I look back, can see every single stepping stone coming to mean that I have this path now. And so I don't think I would. I think I'd just observe.
I love that.
Yeah,
everything has
like a butterfly effect.
Where you are now.
Yeah. And I think if I went back and was like, spoiler alert, it's going to be brilliant, I'd be like, oh, it's going to be brilliant, it's fine, I don't need to. Yes. Yeah, and I actually feel like I'd probably just go and just give her a really big hug. And yeah, just leave her as I found her, because like every single part of it, I can literally look back from birth
it's
to
a
now
catalyst of everything,
and be like,
I'm
so happy it was so hard, because it's not hard anymore. And I wouldn't say anything.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And I feel like, again, as women, we have this tendency to pick at ourselves and be like, oh, you should have done that differently. Oh, why did you do that? And if you could go back, you could do it all over again. But actually, we're here for every single experience that has brought us here. And I think that's really, really powerful. And then lastly, if you could sit down with one woman, dead or alive, and have a coffee, who's it going to be? And why?
I would probably say older me. Like, I know I have just said I wouldn't interrupt. Yeah, I feel like I think women find it really hard to be self-compassionate.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite, like, thinking or journaling exercises is I find it really hard to show myself compassion in the moment, but really easy to be compassionate to past me. So, like, Rachel of 2 years ago would be like, you're not working hard enough. If you're closing your laptop off, like, someone who's more competent than you is going to sweep all of it from under your feet. Whereas me now is like, dude, you're trying so hard.
Yeah.
And, like, you're doing all of these. I find it so easy to be really deeply compassionate to past me, but in the moment is like, you must work harder. And so I would absolutely love to sit with Rachel, who hopefully is retired at 45, that has kids that love spending time with her and is like, I am so proud that you're my mum, and, like, you did all of the hard things to mean that it was a little bit easy for me, and I'm aware that I have that privilege because of you. And so, yeah, I think it would actually really heal a lot of me now.
Yeah.
To feel the compassion in the moment from somebody else.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. What an answer to leave this episode on. I think there's so much that we can take from this conversation, and there's just so much value for every single woman who is listening to this, and just not be so hard on ourselves. Yeah. And I think we're so much more powerful and capable than we realise we are.
And if it's not you, who else?
Exactly. Yeah. And we want it to be you. We want it to be you. We want the good people with the money in their hands and doing good things in the world to make it a better place for everyone. So thank you so much
for having me.
for coming to join us today. It's just been such a joy, as always.